It is officially October, and I am in some dire need of some witchy, dark, spooky vibes. So I have dug through my book collection and identified what I think to be the books that have the most potential to hit those super dark and witchy vibes. I'm going to try a chapter from each one of those and decide which one I actually want to move forward in reading. Hi, I'm Brit. Welcome back to my channel. You are watching Brit's Wickedry, and as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I am wanting some dark witchy vibes. We all know that there are two types of witches in fiction. We have those cute, whimsical witches, and then we have the terrifying, don't fuck with me type of witches. And today I am looking for the latter. I've gone through all of the books that I own in physical versions and in digital versions, and I have tried to pick which ones that I think are the most likely to give me the vibes that I'm looking for. Some of them are strictly horror, some of them might lean a little bit more fantasy or historical, but all of them kind of have that dip their toes into those darker aspects of witches. And I am going to basically sit down, read a chapter from each and every one of these books, rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, and then in the end I'm going to decide which book I actually want to go forward with in reading in my upcoming witchy reading vlog. Now, I did something similar to this in September when I did the Dark Academia first chapter takes test. That is a mouthful. Let me try again. The Dark Academia first chapter taste test. And then I did a vlog where I read the winners of that first chapter taste test, as well as like aligning it with my first week back to school. And since I am having that itch again to really dive into a specific kind of book, and of course I'm not sure which of these might be best for what I'm looking for, I figured that another first chapter taste test will be the perfect thing. So let's talk about the books that I have. So I have two physical books that I'm going to be reading today, the first chapters of. We've got Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. So this is the author who wrote House of Hollow, which I read earlier this year and literally loved. I loved her writing style, and this one is apparently about witches, and so I am excited to give this a try, and hopefully it is just as good as House of Hollow, but with witches and darkness and creepiness. So yeah. The other one that I have a physical copy of is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I have read a few books from this author up to this point. I think I have read The Final Girl Support Group, which was okay, and I read the Southern Vampires Guide, or the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I think that's what it was called. And that one was really good. I really liked that one. I loved the themes about it. I loved the way that he wrote about vampires in that one. And so I am excited to see what he does with witches. Then moving on from my physical copies, I have 3 ebooks that I'm going to be diving into as well today. They are Slewfoot by Brom. I read Krampus from Brom last year during like winter time, and it was really, really good. It leaned more like dark fantasy than pure horror, so that's kind of what I'm expecting from Slewfoot, but of course I've also heard that it's a really creepy and really well done historical witch horror, so I'm looking forward to that one. Slewfoot was actually put on my fall TBR as the witch book that I wanted to read this season, so I'm definitely going to give that a try today. I am also going to read Cunning Folk from Adam Neville. This one is supposed to be a rural folk horror with witches. So I don't know too much about the plot of that one, but I've heard that it is, when I went around asking people for like their most unsettling suggestions with witches, like super creepy, this was a common one brought up, so I'm going to be trying the first chapter of that one today. And then the last one that I'm going to try today is the Book of Gothel by Mary McMinn. And this one is a little bit different than the other ones. I don't know how dark this is going to get, so I'm not sure if it's going to fit my tastes, but I've had the ebook for a little bit now. And this one is a historical fantasy novel that is basically retelling the story of Rapunzel, but focusing on Mother Gothel and her story. And of course, in this story in Rapunzel, that Mother Gothel is the witch. And so it may be what I'm looking for, it may not. I'm going to try the first chapter and see what I think. Side note, if I am looking a little off or sounding a little off, I apologize. It is 9 o'clock at night. I have been up since 4:30 a.m. It has been a very long day, but I want to know tomorrow I don't have to go into school, and I want to know what I'm going to be reading. So I'm going to go ahead and do this chapter taste test tonight, get it over with, figure out which one's my favorite so I know what I get to dive into tomorrow, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and dive into the first book. I think the first one that I'm going to do, let's start off on a strong foot with Slewfoot, okay? So I'm going to go read the first chapter of that one right now. Okay, so I just finished reading the first chapter of Slewfoot by Baram, and my initial impressions are that it was really good, which is to be expected, but it was also really long, which compared to Krampus also had really long chapters, so that's also to be expected, because he, of course, is doing a lot of background work and just setting the stage for the story. This is a historical novel set in the 1600s where a woman from London, Abatha, who has left London and has been shipped off by her father to offer her hand in marriage to one of the men in the Puritan town. So she has now been living there, married to her husband for 2 years, and they have come across a tough time. So basically her husband was kind of paying off this plot of land that he was living on but is owned by his brother, which was passed down from their father, and they only have one payment left to make before it would be officially theirs. However, his brother has hit a rough spot in his business and has decided to try and sell it off to another man, a wealthy landowner, kind of undercutting the deal that he already made with his younger brother. And so there's a bunch of drama going on around that. Basically, Edward, which is Agatha's husband, is kind of timid. He's kind of soft-spoken. And so she's having to coach him on how to approach the situation to try to get not only his brother, but also the head men in charge in the Puritan town, which are the ministers, to stand behind him and hold their agreement that they previously made as still valid. And of course, she can't, as a woman, she can't have any say in this. They are forbidden from partaking in any type of business or lawmaking or anything like that. It's the Puritans. They're very, very strict on what is allowed and what is not allowed when it comes to gender roles. So we have that, and at the very beginning, so that was basically the bulk of the chapter, and at the very beginning we got hints of that darkness that I was looking for. So we got a little taste of some spooky stuff that is kind of making me think that it's coming, but the majority of this chapter was setting up that situation so that we are understanding what's going on, what's at stakes, getting to know all the characters and players involved. And so I'm going to rate this on a scale from 1 to 10. I would say that this was an 8. I was really enjoying it. It was entertaining, and I have hiccups, but it was doing a really good job at setting up the atmosphere of the world that the story is going to be taking place in. So I would definitely enjoy reading more of this. However, I don't know if I am quite in the mood for something as historically heavy as that now that I'm reading. And honestly, guys, it could be how late it is right now. It is 9:54. That was a long chapter, and I still have 4 more to go. And as we got like halfway through, I just found myself going, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. And of course, that's not the feeling that you want to feel when you're reading a book. So I docked some points just for that. I do think it was a really solid chapter, and it's something that I'm interested in continuing. But I think that my mood right now is something that's going to be maybe a little bit more snappy, a little bit more quick. And so with that said, I'm going to move on to reading the second book. I think I'm going to go ahead and try out Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, and I will be back when I finish that one. Okay, so I just finished the first chapter of Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, and that was intense. So maybe it wouldn't be quite so intense for just anybody, but I was pregnant at 16. I had my first daughter when I was 16. And so while I can relate to many of the feelings that this main character is having, I don't relate to them either, like in a specific way. For example, the last sentence she said in the chapter was, "It would be better if she was dead." Because she's pregnant and her dad is furious, and her dad is taking her to a home for pregnant teens. And that was really hard to read, but I get it, but I don't get it. But I guess I wasn't prepared. I knew this was about pregnant teenagers. Like, I knew this was about pregnant teenagers going in, pregnant teenagers who get sent to a home, who also stumble across, I think, like a spell book or like a witch's grimoire or something, and begin diddling with witchcraft in some way. But that first chapter and reading about her experience was unsettling, was uncomfortable, and not really in the way that I was wanting. When I said I was wanting an unsettling, dark witchcraft novel. However, it definitely checks that box. This is kind of hard to rate because I think it was a good chapter. I think it did the job right for setting up this book. I just particularly hated it. I hated everything going on in the chapter. I hated the descriptions. I hated the father. I hated what that poor girl was thinking about herself. And yeah, I basically hated everything. That said, it was a good chapter. It did the job it was supposed to do. It was well written. So I'm going to give it a 7 because I know I like Grady Hendrix's writing. I know that he's, of course he's doing the setup here. This poor girl is hating her life, so of course she's going to be thinking negative things. It just particularly touched me in a way because I was in a similar situation, but I was in a situation contrary to this girl's situation where she's seen as an embarrassment, as a failure, that she'd be better off dead, whereas I was surrounded with love and support from all angles. And of course that makes the biggest difference in those kinds of situations. But without going on a tangent, I just was not feeling it. It was not the mood or the vibes that I was looking for. It was horrible, but not in the way that I kind of want. And I don't know. I'm going to have to think on this. I don't know now if I'm ready or if I'm in the right headspace right now to read something like this. And I might need to build myself up to it. So that's what I have to say about that one. I did, however, enjoy the dedication. It gave me a giggle when I first got in here. I'm going to read it to you. Hold on, let me find it. It said, Amanda, you look at life through the eyes of a child, and I don't know where you got them, and it's making me very uncomfortable. Please stop. Yeah, so that was cute. I'm going to try, what was the other one that I was going to do? Cunning Folk. I'm going to try Cunning Folk by Adam Neville and see what kind of vibes I'm getting from that one. All right, so I just finished reading chapter 1 of The Cunning Folk by Adam Neville, and this one was really short. It was actually like a what do they call those? Not a prequel, but a prologue. So it was a short prologue, and it got straight to the action, straight to the violence, straight to the scare factor. It seemed to me like a typical horror novel prologue that is meant to like set the vibes and the creep factor up initially, and then, you know, you'll dive into the story and then slowly build back up towards the towards the scare and the fear factor. So in this one, I'm gonna give it an 8 or 7. Let's go 7. I'm gonna give it a 7 because while it was good and engaging and quick, and it jumped straight into the the scare factor. I don't know what the heck's going on. Like, I don't know the context of anything that just happened. I don't know, basically in this prologue, a man is doing home construction, like working on his house. And then like he all of a sudden gets this urge to walk into the living room where he sees a noose tied with some of his own materials that he knows he didn't tie it. And then as he's staring at it, all of a sudden he gets this overwhelming urge to like march towards it and of course hang himself on the noose. And it's like something is taking over his body. He's trying to fight it, but it ultimately ends with him going through with that act. And so I don't know like what's going on, like what could have taken over his body like that, or maybe did anything actually take over his body and, you know, he was just maybe like a little bit crazy. You know, is it ghosts? Is it the witches that this is supposed to be about? I was told that this has witches in it. So, I mean, I'm guessing it has to do with something to do with witches, but I don't really actually know much about what the story is about. So it's a little hard to like rate it in that, but it makes me want to go back and read like the blurb because I can't remember for the life of me what it was. So it says a compelling folk horror story of deadly rivalry and the oldest magic from the 4 times winner of the August Derleth Award for Best Horror Novel. Okay, it says no home is heaven with hell next door. Money's tight and their new home is a fixer-upper deep in rural southwest England with an ancient wood at the foot of the garden, and Tom and his family are miles from anywhere and anyone familiar. His wife Fiona was never convinced that buying the money pit at auction was a good idea, not least because the previous owner committed suicide. Though no one can explain why. Okay, so I'm guessing that prologue was the previous person who lived there, the previous owner who committed suicide, but we were actually seeing that it wasn't actually willing suicide. Within days of crossing the threshold, when hospitalities break out with the elderly couple next door, Tom's dreams of future contentment are threatened by an escalating tit-for-tat campaign of petty damage and disruption. Increasingly isolated and tormented, Tom risks losing his home, everyone dear to him, and his mind, because surely only the mad would suspect that the oddballs across the hedge command unearthly powers, a malicious magic even older than the eerie wood and the strange barrow therein, a hallowed realm from where he suspects his neighbors draw a hideous power. Okay, so yeah, it definitely has those witchy feels. I get now maybe what that is referring to, and if I had remembered reading the blurb, I would know what the heck is going on and what that was referring to probably. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with giving that a 7. I think it was good. It was entertaining, it was quick, it was snappy. And I would be happy to continue reading and figuring out what's going on with this house, with these neighbors, and yeah, so let's see. I have gone ahead and read 3 now, right? So we did Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, we did Slewfoot, and we did The Cunning Folk. So now we've got the Invocations by Crystal Sutherland, and then the Mother Gothel one. And if I am being 100% honest right now, I do not even feel like giving that Mother Gothel one a try. I'm actually going to open it up. Okay, look, I know I said I was going to try it, but it's now almost 11 o'clock at night, and I am getting a little tired. I'm ready for bed. So I'm going to see how long the first chapter is in the Book of Gothel. Okay, you know what I'm actually going to do? Because I said I was going to try that book, and because I still have the 1 chapter of the Invocations to try out, I think what I'm going to do is just go to bed and then wake up in the morning and try the remaining 2 chapters. It's a little unfortunate because I hope that my initial impressions of the 2 or of the 3 that I've already read don't go from my mind, but just to be honest right now, I'm tired and I would rather go to bed, wake up fresh, and try again. So that's what I'm going to do. Instead of just like trying to rush through this and skip the books that I said I was going to try, I'm going to get some sleep and then I'll wake up, meet you again for the final 2 first chapters, and then I'll make my decision of what I'm going to read the rest of the day tomorrow and over the next few days. I think that's a plan, and I'll see you in the morning. Okay, hello, good morning. I am back with renewed energy and a fresh face. And guys, I'm sorry about last night. I truly had like in my mind that I would be able to read all 5 chapters before bed so that I could start the vlog like fresh this morning. But I literally was so tired and I was just feeling like my energy like drain out of me as I was sitting here and recording the first 3 chapters like of reading and letting you guys know what I think. And so it was just so much better for everybody, both of us, if I were to just call it quits that last night, get up this morning and try again. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to jump into the Mother Gothel one first. I keep forgetting the actual name of it. Let me go back to it. The Book of Gothel. Okay, I'm going to dive into this one first because it was the one I was hesitant a little bit about last night. And after like flipping through the first chapter, I am not sure. Like I'm pretty sure it's not the vibes that I'm going for, but I'm still going to give it a try, read through it and see what I think. And then after that, I will read the Invocations and wrap this up, decide what I'm going to read for the witchy reading vlog, and then I will dive right on into that. Okay. So the first chapter of the Book of Gothel is actually following an academic who is contacted by a woman who found like a really old medieval book in her mom's cellar. And it's in a language she can't read, and she was hoping that perhaps he could read it based on his specialties and talents. And So he is immediately like super interested in it through pictures, and he decides right that moment that he is going to travel there and try to read it. And this book is what I'm guessing to be like a diary or story of this woman, Gothel, or who they're calling Mother Gothel, although the book, her name wasn't said to be Mother Gothel or anything like that. It was Haley Wise, maybe. And this is who I'm guessing is the Mother Gothel character. But it was really interesting. I have a lot of questions. I'm curious to know what it said. The chapter 1 cut off like right before he was going to sit down and start reading, and it looked like the next chapter was actually like inserts from what the book was saying. And so I was almost tempted to actually keep reading to figure out what was said, at least in the first part of the book. But I didn't. So I am a little confused because Mother Gothel is a character from Rapunzel, which I mentioned. However, the illustrations and stuff that were on the front of this book that he found were actually more reminiscent of like the Snow White fairy tale with a girl with raven hair on a stone coffin, apples, and that kind of imagery. And so I'm wondering if this story is going to be kind of like a crossover of like who Mother Gothel was. Maybe she was a character in both stories. Maybe it's the same person, or they're related in some way. I don't know yet, but I am actually really interested to find out. So I'm gonna rate this one an 8 because while not like a ton happened, it gave me enough to be really curious on where this is going and how this Haley Wise person is related to Mother Gothel, Rapunzel, Snow White, and like what they're going to discover inside of this book. So yeah, 8 for that one. I'm glad I stuck it out and did not try to skip it like I planned on last night. Okay, so with that said, I am going to now read the first chapter of Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. I always forget her name, but I love her writing. I read, as I mentioned, her other book in the spring called House of Hollow, and it is definitely one of my favorites that I've read so far. And so I'm really excited to read from the same author and see what she does with witches and demons and things like that, actually, because this one has to do with it has to do with a supernatural serial killer that begins targeting witches. 3 young women from very different backgrounds must work together to hunt the killer down. And this one also begins with a prologue versus chapter 1. So I'm going to dive into the prologue right now and see what I think. All right, so I just finished with the first chapter or the prologue of the Invocations, and it was really good. It definitely had a more thriller type feel to it than something like a horror or fantasy. It was following like a young girl who was leaving a Halloween party after watching, like she was leaving upset because the guy she liked, she saw him like making out or kissing on another girl at the party, and she just decided she was not having a good time anymore and wanted to leave. So she leaves the party in the middle of the night, and it's dark outside. It's a little creepy. She's walking from this party location to her apartment, and she starts to get this weird feeling that like somebody's following her. And so she's like looking around. She's had bad experiences in the past, which has led her to go, and it didn't explain it too in depth, but from the sounds of it, it led her to go seek out, like her previous bad experiences of not feeling safe led her to go seek out some kind of enchantment or some kind of magical protection that got like written on her wrist. It seems to be not through like typical ink though, because it sounds like it's permanent. Maybe it's some kind of tattoo or something like that. but this is supposed to protect her from danger and things like that. So even though she feels this feeling of fear, she's not too worried because she remembers she has that's there to protect her now from any dangers. But as she's walking, she's kind of scanning, and she actually starts to realize that there's this man who seems to be following her. He's completely drenched in like shadow, like she can't make out any distinguishable features, but every time she turns around, he's there. So she starts using, it seems to be some kind of like shadow travel magic where she's able to walk into one shadow and out a different shadow in another location. And she's using that to try to help her get home faster. And despite that, every time she turns around, he's still there. So it seems like he is maybe using some kind of magic, which doesn't make sense because she said men, like to her knowledge, men are not able to use magic or to make deals with demons to allow them to have special abilities like women can in this world. So basically, he's following her. She tries to get home. She's watching the door. She locks it behind her. She's kind of panicking, deep breathing. She goes and even grabs a knife because she's just having that super uncomfortable feeling that something's not right. And she's waiting and she's waiting. And then the prologue ends with, despite the door not opening, a set of hands wraps around her throat. And so I'm guessing that this is going to be like the first, we're being introduced to the serial killer here, I'm guessing. And this is one of the victims that we just read about. So we haven't actually met the main characters yet or anything like that, but it was interesting enough, and it gave just a sprinkling of enough background information on like the potential magic and what might be going on to really catch my attention. And so I'm going to give this one an 8. So even though this definitely had more thrillery type vibes than what I was going for, I really wanted something like super uncomfortable and horror leaning. So with that said, we now have all of the scores from all of the first chapters, and I need to choose which ones I'm going to read first. So even though I gave this one an 8 because I would be happy to move forward with this one, like I really want to know what happens like next, because we didn't really get, like, we got introduced to the serial killer is what I'm guessing, but we don't know I don't know who the main characters are. I don't know anything about that yet. We haven't met them. So I'm interested to know where this goes. The writing was really good in that, as always. I love Crystal Sutherland's writing. However, it just didn't hit the vibes I was looking for. And so since I wanted a particular type of vibe, a particular kind of feeling for my reads this week, as I go through the vlog, I need to decide which ones I'm going to move forward with. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm not feeling thrillerish, so I don't think I'm going to go forward with the Invocations, even though it was really interesting. It just had, like I said, a different vibe than what I was looking for. I'm not going to pick up Witchcraft for Wayward Girls yet. Again, I don't think this is quite the vibe I'm looking for. The heaviness of the topic is just not something I feel like addressing this minute. But it's definitely something I'll work myself up to because I think that it's still going to be a really good read and it'll probably be really worth it. I just need to get in the right headspace to read about that content type with my own history that I explained. And so that leaves Book of Gothel, Slewfoot, and Cunning Folk by Adam Neville. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move forward with Slewfoot. I think that of all of the options is going to give me that most unsettling, creepy witch feelings in the setting of the Puritans. I love religious horror, and I have a feeling that's probably going to also maybe weave its way in a little bit. So that's what I'm hoping for from that one based on the first chapter, which was really good, just really long. So yeah, I'm going to move forward with Slewfoot. And then I also, I think I will also try to read Cunning Folk because I did like that one, and that one is a pure horror. And so even if Slewfoot maybe doesn't give me exactly what I'm looking for, I'm hoping that Cunning Folk does. And so I think that's the plan. Slewfoot, Cunning Folk, and then if for some reason I read both of those, I don't think that I will based on the amount of time that like I actually have to read this week. But if I finish Slewfoot and Cunning Folk, then I will come back and read some of the invocations. So that's where we're at. I am going to pick those reads up in the weekly vlog that I am about to start now, which will come out if you're watching this on release day. Usually I will release these taste tests one week and then the following week I'll release the vlog. So that's the plan for now, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you're interested in some of these witchy reads, and if you are looking for something to dive into and you are wondering like which books are offering which vibes, hopefully this helped you decide as well. And they were all really good. I think I would recommend them all to different people depending on what you are interested in reading. I like that the witch genre has so much variation in like how it can go. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, you have the super cozy kind of whimsical witches, and then you have like urban fantasy type witches, and then you have high fantasy witches, which I didn't even get into in this vlog, but those exist. And then of course you have like horror, dark witches, and that can even be separated more into like more modern contemporary horror and like historical witchy horror. And so I just love how varied the witch genre or themes can be, and I tend to actually like all of them. I love anything witchy. It's just this specific week I would really like to get into some creepy, dark, unsettling witchy vibes. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this. And if you have any witch horror recommendations or other types of witchy books that you think I might enjoy, please let me know down in the comments. I'm always looking for new suggestions, new things to try out. And if you would like to say hi and let me know that you are here and watching, but you don't have anything more significant to say, drop the witch emoji down in the comments to let me know you were here and watched to the end. And I will see you guys next time. I hope you have a great day. Bye.